Stay tuned for your 3CR podcast. 3CR is an independent community radio station based in Melbourne, Australia. For more information, visit www.3cr.org.au.
3CR.
We are still fired up, and we're still talking about revolution.
And you're back with the Doing Time show. And, yeah, we just had a little bit of a technical hiccup, but it's all sorted. Keith is waiting online at the moment to speak, and he's the coordinator of prison support and at the Red Cross. And we also are going to be having Nick, who will introduce himself in full when we speak to him. And he's going to be speaking about the lived experience of prison. Claire is here too. Hello, Claire.
Hi, Marisa.
It's lovely to have you. And so pretty soon, and Rob's here.
Hello.
Yep, you just heard Rob before. And Nick has also done a post-release program. He's getting one off the ground at the moment, and he's from the Red Cross. We're going to speak to him about the lived experience of the criminal justice system, and he's a previous peer supporter. Keith met Nick when he was inside, and I believe that Nick's also studied a diploma in community services. And so we'll talk about that later. He's also at the Red Cross as well. So, yeah, without any further ado, I'm just going to go into another quick announcement, and then we'll get the guys on the line and we'll speak about that. And Claire, I think I'd like you to talk about your report as well. Sure. And speak about, you can all speak about the reintegration puzzle conference. So it's going to be a little bit of a panel discussion, so to speak. So stay tuned, listeners, for this very special broadcast about the lived experience of prison. And we'll go into a quick announcement.
6. معلومات العنف الأسري. يستضيف مجلس يارا وخدمة فيتزوري القانونية فيتزوري Legal Service جلسة معلومات عن العنف الأسري يوم الأربعاء 12 من تموز يوليو من الساعة 2 مساء إلى الساعة 3 مساء في مكتبة فيتزوري. وستغطي الجلسة السبل القانونية لوقف العنف الأسري. يمكنك حجز مكانك على الموقع الإلكتروني www.yaracity.vic.gov.au libraries أو الاتصال بمجلس يارا على الرقم 9205-5555 أو من خلال خدمة المترجم الشفهي على الرقم 9280-1940 لمزيد من المعلومات.
And you're back with the Doing Time show. And on the line this evening we have Nick and Keith, who I just introduced, and Claire's here too. So hello to all of you.
Hi, Keith.
Hello.
Hi, Keith. Hi, Nick.
Can you hear?
It's Claire here. Hi, and thanks, Marisa.
Yeah. Can you hear me, Keith?
Yeah, I can. Can you hear us?
Absolutely. Nick?
Yes.
Oh, there you are. You just have to get a bit closer.
Okay.
Good on you.
Is that a bit better?
Now, this is going to be quite a special broadcast because there's going to be a whole lot of us. And I just wanted to introduce you. You both know Claire, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Nick, you know Claire, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we've also got Rob joining us in the studio, and he's one of the co-hosts for the Doing Time show.
Hi.
Yeah,
Nice to meet you.
So who wants to go first? Because I thought we could start off with a few introductions.
Well, would you like me to do a bit of context for you,
Absolutely, Marisa? Claire, that would be lovely.
Okay, so I guess I met Keith certainly at the Reintegration Puzzle Conference 2 years ago in Brisbane. I was giving a talk on how I just got the Churchill Fellowship to go overseas and study the role of ex-prisoners, offenders as peer mentors. And everyone was saying, oh, wow, fantastic, this is great, look, can't wait till you come back with all the information. And Keith in particular sort of took me aside and said, we so need to have something like that happening down in Tasmania Tasmania, and at Risdon Prison, and bingo. Then just 2 years later, so just at the recent Reintegration Puzzle Conference in Sydney, the whole theme was the lived experience, changing systems from the inside out. And the session that I spoke then further about my research was also the session that Keith and Nick spoke about their program that they run with the Red Cross in Risdon Prison.
Good on you, Claire. And okay, so Keith, did you want to go next? How?
Yes.
Go on.
Sure. So I'm the coordinator of the prison support program for Red Cross down here in Hobart. So myself and Nick are sitting here in downtown Hobart, where the office is. I've actually been in the role for about 2.5 years, but it's been ongoing for quite some time, providing a program in Risdon Prison, which is there's only actually one prison in Tasmania, one adult prison, and it's Risdon Prison. And so we train up peer supporters to be like a contact person for new prisoners and prisoners who sort of need some assistance, whether it be, a bit of sort of someone to talk to, or some educational support, or just a bit of guidance around the way the prison works, and even the sort of unwritten rules of the prison. And so they're usually people who sort of know the prison system reasonably well, and are trying to do something positive in the prison yard. So that's what the program does. I've been the coordinator of that for a couple of years. And as Claire mentioned, I met her at the reintegration puzzle, and I realised that what she was going to research was actually the evidence base for why a program like the peer support program can be successful, because you're actually using prisoners, their knowledge, and a lot of the time people aren't willing to go up to correctional staff or psychologists, therapeutics, or even not-for-profit, counsellors or anything like that. They want to go and talk to someone who has walked in their shoes. So Claire went and sort of, when she had gone and done her report, actually provided a really strong evidence base to inform our work. So, we stayed in touch. And Claire's come down to Tasmania, and then we've caught up in Geelong, and also recently in Sydney. So, that's how we know each other, and I'll pass it along to Nick, who's also a project officer in the program down here.
Fantastic. Go for it, Nick.
Hi. So I'm a project officer for the Beyond Bars program in Hobart with the Red Cross. I met Keith whilst inside Risdon Prison. He was heading up the peer support program there, and I was introduced to him, and after talking with him, decided I would like to join the program. I volunteered in that program for 18 months until my release. Upon my release, me and Keith kept in contact, and we would talk about the importance of a program outside of the prison regarding returning citizens' need for further help and guidance upon their release, and decided to start to work together to develop a program in that.
Fantastic. So often, what could be really annoying for people that have been in prison is that sometimes, and I'm not referring to Claire and Keith here, but I'm just saying in terms of the government, is it true that perhaps sometimes government agencies or politicians are too much of a mouthpiece for prisoners and speak up and represent them and don't allow prisoners to speak in any way?
I would think that would be an accurate...
it's pretty fair to say, because in many ways prisoners aren't even legally allowed to speak. We're not allowed to take any photos or any information or, words or letters or stories or interviews aren't permitted to leave the prison gates. It doesn't get out.
And I also also think some issues that the prisoners raise with politicians and government in general are not really the issues that need to be addressed at hand. And when it comes to politicians speaking up about it, the real issues that need to be addressed are kind of going on the wayside. They're not kind of coming to the forefront. Yeah.
Brisbane's actually still in medium security as of Friday. Was still locked down from an incident last week, and the official line was that it was, something to do with the withdrawal of nicotine patches, and the response was, a disturbance, and then there was tear gas, and then it was locked down. But I think there's got to be some sort of underlying issue there, and no one's really talked to the prisoners to find out what they think was the driver behind the disturbance. So I'm always left to wonder, and you don't. Yeah, those stories don't really come out, so you're never quite sure what's going on sometimes. Yeah.
Absolutely. And Nick, apparently you've written a paper about peer support in prisons with Rob White. No?
No, I haven't written a paper with Rob White. That's Keith.
Did you write the paper, Keith? Okay. It's been a most interesting afternoon. I'll talk to you afterwards, Keith. Can you tell us about the paper, Keith?
Well, it actually was a collaborative effort because this is sort of ongoing. Me and Nick have known each other for a couple of years now, so that there's a lot of conversation.
Aren't you being a bit modest there, Nick?
Yeah, a lot of conversation to go into something like that. So what the paper was actually is actually about the limits and possibilities of peer support.
Yeah.
So it is actually about the challenges of implementing a program like that, like in a prison, and also about the potential possibilities, not just to improve the atmosphere of the prison yard, but also for the participants. So there is a lot of scope, a lot of potential for people to get a lot out of participating in something like that, whether it be a chance for them to sort of be doing something positive and taking on a sort of reconstructed narrative identity, but also sometimes they're more eligible for day release and to go out to training and to get involved in that way. So there's benefits, and they get an allowance, and they attend meetings, and it also probably doesn't hurt their chances of parole if they're active in things like that.
That's right.
But the other side is that they're providing a benefit to the immediate community because they're helping people do their time better and know what's going on, and also they're helping alleviate the anxiety. When people first get to prison, obviously it's very nerve-wracking. So to have someone there just to sort of tell them it's going to be okay, and tell them the sort of first things that they need to do to stabilise in the place and the way it works, it's really, really valuable. I think it's sometimes a bit undervalued, and we've had a lot of people come to us and say it's really needed. It's a really crucial role. So that's the positive side of it, and that's what's good about it. The challenges, there's a lot of challenges to sort of implementing any programs in a prison, especially if you're an outside agency like a not-for-profit. You're not in the system really. You're constantly on the outside trying to be able to navigate it and get things done.
Absolutely, and I think. Look, that's really. I'm thankful that you were able to give that explanation. Just a little bit of a housekeeping, because this is radio, and obviously people don't have the visual cues. So that was you, Nick, right? That was speaking.
That was me.
That was you, right? Good. See, you're not. That's good not to be modest, because you also collaborated, as Keith said, isn't it, Keith? You both had a hand in it, really. So All right, so just before you actually speak, just obviously just say who you are, just so that listeners can conveniently follow the flow of the talk, yeah?
Sure.
So who's next? So, Claire, did you want to maybe talk about the conference and
well, actually, I was just going to pick up on them when
of course,
Keith, just talking about with the the current issues in Risdon, and then I guess we instantly wonder, well, actually, what is going on, and have prisoners actually been asked, or why have things got to this stage? And I think if we can get to a point, and I'm sure that we will, because we're all starting out, and what Keith and Nick already started with the program in Risdon, if we can get to a point like what, say, User Voice in the United Kingdom have been doing, they have established prison councils, and then they have what they call the councils in the community service councils. What these prison councils are in that so User Voice works with the prison staff and the prison governors. They regard the prison as a community. They then put to the prisoners, okay, who wants to, be a part of this council, put themselves up for election to the council. So they actually have different parties, with different titles. It could be, the Prisoners' Rights Party. It could be something else. And then they actually run it like a council election and campaigning. And then they actually have a proper voting process. So what they get out of that is an elected prison council with prisoners on that council.
Overseas you're talking about, right?
This is overseas.
Yes, yeah.
So when you think of it, if they can get to that point after, probably starting in the first place with peer mentoring, or even, someone who's come out of prison deciding that they want to start their own agency, if they can get to that point, I'm sure we can as well, where it's not about us just assuming why there's been a riot, but that a riot is headed off because you've got an active citizenship of people within a community in the prison resolving issues through a council.
What do you guys think about that?
That's Nick speaking here. I think if it could come to that point, that would be a great way of dealing with problems that occur in the prison. Because at this point in time, when people have their own voice, it seems to be their own agenda. If a prisoner wants to speak out about something, it's normally about what they want to change, not what the prison as a community want to change. So if the prison could have a voice, like a party and a council, and everybody could have a vote on something, I think great change could occur. Yeah.
Fantastic. That's really good. So the three of you had a role at the recent conference in Sydney. Is that right?
Yes, we did. So the Reintegration Puzzle Conference, it's convened by Deakin University, and it's been operating for 13 years now. Been held in every state. A couple of conferences were overseas, but so the latest one was in Sydney, and I think through just, I guess, the close involvement through with my Churchill Fellowship and the benefits of needing the lived experience agencies throughout Australia sort of popping up and getting in touch as well with Deakin around the conference. We had people like groups like Seeds of Affinity from South Australia. We had Linda Fisk on here a couple of weeks ago. Yep. There was the Women's Justice Network in Sydney, and there we had Keith with Red Cross program in Risdon, and just others as well across the country, other Indigenous groups that have started their own programs. Keenan Mundine, who I think we're still hoping to have on.
That's nothing.
Keenan Mundine, who started his own Aboriginal Justice Consultancy. So the keynote speakers, most of them have had lived experience of prison and had their own powerful stories to tell. And then in all the different breakout sessions, there were different programs also with that same theme, and I was in the same session as with Keith and Nick We also had the Centre for Innovative Justice, RMIT, Rob Hulls. They've teamed up with Jesuit Services and doing a program around people with intellectual disability and experience of the criminal justice system. Yeah.
And Keith, how did you find the conference?
I think I'd been to 3 now. Lucky enough to get to go to 3 because it really is the sort of most significant. I mean, it's the only not-for-profit prison-focused conference in Australia. So when you go there, you're surrounded by people who I think are really inspiring. I think this was the best one I've been to. And probably the best part of it was at the end of it all, everyone sort of looked around and said, look, we're on the same page with a lot of these issues here. So rather than preaching to the choir, we're across a lot of these issues. We can actually, on some of the major ones, we can probably join forces and try to have a bit of a united voice that gives it a bit more momentum so that we're not just talking to people in the room at these conferences. We're actually kicking the conversation out to a wider audience and, advocating and getting the conversation started elsewhere. And I think that was the best outcome because, I mean, it's wonderful to hear people talking, about these issues, but we all want it to go even further. We all want it to become part of a more mainstream conversation.
Absolutely.
I thought that was really probably the best best thing that could have come out of it.
Yeah, and I think as well that what we've been able to do since, just as you're saying, Keith, when we were talking at the conference of how we really need to sort of start a network, a national network, and literally we've got that underway in this good organic way with Linda Fisk coming on the Doing Time show a couple of weeks ago from South Australia, talking about what they're doing, and now you speaking from Tasmania about what you're doing. So thanks to Marissa, we're making it happen.
Well, and this is good because I usually don't do shows this way, but I feel like we need to do it more often. That it's always good to get a bunch of people on air and discuss these things. I mean, the Doing Time show has traditionally been a broadcast where people from minority groups, including prisoners and Aboriginal people and deaths in custody, people who've died, families have had loved ones die in custody and so forth, can all come in here in a safe environment and talk about these things without being bamboozled by right-wing mainstream media outlets. And Rob, you've been a bit quiet there. Have you got anything to say or contribute?
I've been just listening here. It's just from somebody who's not too familiar with this issue and stuff. Do you feel that having this cancelled there would help to prevent inmates from coming back into the prison and able to integrate more in the system to kind of stop this revolting door thing?
Yeah, so
what do you reckon, Nick?
Yeah, go for it, Nick.
Yeah, well, I think if anything that could help deter people coming back into prison and making an issue more aware to the public is a great idea because it helps the community even to understand the issue and change their way of thinking and to accept people that have come into out of prison into the community a lot more, help with employment, housing, just generally all over, yeah.
Nick, how did you, and please, if you don't want to answer this question, you don't need to, but I wanted to just put it out there. How did you actually come to the realisation that it was important to have peer support and that you wanted to do this work? Obviously, being inside would have been quite challenging. How did you come to this realisation?
I came to the realisation by hearing other people's stories inside the prison. understanding that there was a real lack of education with people that were at Brisbane. There were just a lot of drug issues, a lot of drug talk, and I wanted to move past all that and show that even though you are inside prison and things are happening out of your control, you can still change your life and change the way that you're thinking and change the way that you're going to live outside once you're released. So I then started to change myself and got myself educated within the prison, which was really difficult. And when I spoke to Keith and saw that he was doing this peer support program inside the minimum security prison, I wanted to then help out and show people that, yes, you can change if you put your mind to it.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, definitely, and I hear from others out there that when they do have to go into prison and they do want to make that change for themselves, they got a lot of time where they can go to school, and there's a lot of programs that you can go to college through the mail. But when you're locked up, it seems like a lot of that information is not available to you. Like, so what can you do so you can be more productive while you have time sitting in your cell, so you can work on getting on the outside and do something better for your life?
Yeah, that information about education isn't really available when you're in there. You kind of have to self-search. I myself had to see and seek different people in regards to options that I had. And even then, when I tried to say what I wanted to do and seek the help that I needed, I was deterred. It was only after probably 4 months of constant nagging to certain staff that I really wanted to achieve something to fulfill my time in the prison and to help myself when I'm out, that they actually listened and got me on board with the study. So,
what sort of study was it, Nick?
I did I started off with a Cert 2 in active volunteering and met a lovely lady that was teaching the class. I spoke to her in regards to things I wanted to do when I was out back in the community, which was social work. And she then talked to me about a Cert 4 in mental health, a Cert 4 in alcohol and other drugs, and a Cert 4 in youth work, which I completed off in there.
Wow, and you were able to do all of them in there?
Yeah, all three. I did that within a year.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow, but
and I attended the TAFE here outside. The prison would let me. They would drop me off and then pick me back up at the end of the day.
So you were able to go out to the TAFE?
Yeah. They let me go out to the TAFE so I could attend classes.
Wow. Where was this? Tasmania?
Yeah.
I can't imagine them doing that in Port Phillip. In Victoria. Did you, Claire?
Me and Nick were talking about this the other day as well, because on the other side of the coin, I can sort of understand that they're not just going to want to give everyone day release to go out and study at TAFE unless there's been a sort of ongoing conversation and someone's really indicated this is what they want to do.
Yeah.
And they're taking it really seriously. So credit to Nick.
Absolutely.
He really did sort of stay on course and sort of show and prove and demonstrate that this is something he really wanted to do, and was going to probably, and it wasn't just a flash in the pan thing, it was something he was quite driven towards.
Yep.
So, and he's managed to pass that along to other people. He's passed along that message that, hey, just because you come up with some idea and you go and ask if you can do it, they're probably not going to let you. You actually need to think about what you really want to do and really, something that you're interested in and you're going to be motivated towards and something that you're sort of, either is going to serve you on the outside and you're sort of suited to, and then follow that and keep singing that same song for a while. And
Absolutely.
Then you'll get the opportunity, because in Brisbane there is a lot of top-down kind of structure to the educational stuff. Like you can do a Cert 1 in construction or a Cert 1 in horticulture without too much worry. But a lot of the people in there say, hey, I don't want to do that. I want to do a different course. I've got no interest in that. And nothing really happens if people if it doesn't line up with their own goals and their own vision of what they want to be doing with their life. So, yeah, it's interesting. I think some people just take it on themselves and create that vision of where they want to go. And Nick's done well with that, and we've seen another couple of people manage to pull that off, but it's definitely not easy.
Yeah, this is Nick speaking again. It's, to elaborate more, I basically had to give a 5 or 10 year goal plan of what I wanted to do with my life. I think they wanted to see me achieve the Cert 2 in active volunteering before they would even think about putting me into a Cert 4.
Who did that? A psychologist?
No, this is education department.
Education department. So that's interesting. This is really intriguing.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I don't mean to say the pun here, but it seems like some cases the education department needs to be educated, and that and it seems like when an inmate gets into prison, when an inmate gets settled in, they should ask him, what is it that you would like to study if you had that opportunity? What would you like to done on the outside that you didn't have opportunity for?
In saying that, too, the education levels of inmates in Risdon Prison is very low to begin with, and I think the problem lies too is that inmates themselves don't even know what they want to do because they don't even understand what is out there to do.
Yeah.
I was lucky enough to understand what I wanted to do and the pathways to get there. But if you could, I had that discussion with an inmate at one stage and asked him himself, what would you like to do when you're out? And he didn't even know how to describe how to be a carpenter. He just said, people who build houses, kind of that.
Right.
So he didn't understand the education kind of needs that, or the pathways to get where he wanted to go.
But see, it's interesting, Nick. Sorry to interrupt. It's interesting, Nick, that you were mentioning before that they were asking you what your goals are. Luckily that you knew those goals and that you were able to articulate them. But what about the other guys that didn't know, and then they might miss out on opportunities? I mean, if I want to go and study, I'm not going to be asked what my 10-year goals are.
Yeah, and I think that's maybe an importance where they might need a career counsellor to come into the prison or an education counsellor to come into the prison. Even for the Cert 4, the first 6 months of the Cert 4, I had to do that in my cell. They didn't let me, and that's with the mental health. They didn't let me go out to the tape, so I didn't really get a lot of paperwork in regards to being able to research things. I had to come up with things myself. I had limited internet access, and it was only the benefit I had of externals like Keith coming in and other teachers that I could get papers to be able to read about what I was studying. They made it very difficult for me to actually study in there. It was through perseverance that I was able to achieve. So I can see how even a lot of people that don't have the drive that I had could even fail inside a prison, just in regards to how the prison service treats someone who wants to better themselves.
So how long were you in there for, Nick? Was it a long sentence?
I served 3 years.
Okay, so 3 years. Well, that's quite a big chunk, isn't it?
Yeah. It was that last, I think, 18 months that I was studying.
And how long have you been out?
8 months. Oh, yeah, 10 months.
Yeah.
Not even a year. And that's fantastic. And you're doing like peer support work at the Red Cross? You're actually going into the prison?
Keith, I come up with some ideas every now and then, but Keith prison.
That's cool. No, it's really it's really good that you've been able to speak with us, and you, and as well as you, Keith, and Claire too, because often what tends to happen is that we always hear about the negative experiences that people have. It's never about moving forward. So it's really heartening to hear positives as well about how people are actually moving forward.
I think too, just how valuable is it though to hear Nick's story, and what it was actually like for him going through, but what he was able to achieve, because otherwise what it's left to is so many policymakers making assumptions about what people need.
Yeah, and I think that's where your report comes in, Claire, that, you know, you were able to talk about all these wonderful overseas programs, and like I keep saying, and I know I sound like a broken down record, but, you know, Australia needs to get with the program, you know?
Yeah, and it's all based on, it's listening to people that have been through the experience, that they're the best experts, they're the experts by experience.
Yeah, definitely. Having that peer support group from the time that you're in prison to help you carry all the way through until it's time to be released, and then until you get fully established on the outside, can be really helpful.
Absolutely.
Can I just add something to it,
Yeah.
Keith, here? In addition to what Claire said, so and since Nick's come on board as in a paid role with Red Cross as a project officer, on a program development level, so we are trying to expand this program out to do post-release support and do some social reintegration type piece for people who are transitioning and exiting from prison. That's the goal, because I think that's actually that's the missing piece down here in Tassie. There's just not much out there for people coming out of prison. So that was why Nick was onboarded as a project officer, and he mentioned that I'm driving a bit. I don't think that's really the case. I think it really is a collaboration, because there's just so many issues and so many nuances to it that I really didn't understand until I'm talking to Nick, and I'm always asking him, you know, sort of to fill in the blanks in these areas that I just don't know. The internal workings of the prison, number one. Some of the politics, some of the, you know, is just, he'll do a lot of myth busting on what's really going on, because there's just actually no substitute for talking to someone who has actually lived there in Risdon, and that's what's missing from a lot of the programs. You know, it just doesn't have that deeper understanding, because it's not developed by someone who's been through, who's walked that journey from day one, where you put on the prison maroons and walk through the gate, to the journey of like deciding that you're not coming back and exiting back out and actually coming back out. So I just think that without that, we wouldn't really be going anywhere. So I'm sure Claire would support this, that I think every program that's getting implemented for returning citizens, people coming out, needs to be informed by that, you know, by someone like Nick. Otherwise, you're just another practitioner, you know, sort of guessing. You know.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, definitely. One way that we can improve the prison system is actually hearing from the inmates themselves on how things can be better. So,
just to set things in context here, in terms of policy and in terms of these things actually happening here in Australia, how far away are we from that? What are your opinions on that today?
What do you think?
Well, I think that hopefully it happens sooner than later, but I doubt anything will happen in the next few years. There's a lot of challenges.
Spoken like a true veteran.
There's more talk about building more prisons than rehabilitation services. So, I just think that the way that government is thinking on this issue is wrong, and I can't see it changing anytime soon. So it's up to like these projects.
Getting some, Keith here is just adding in the difficulty in getting someone who's done time to go back in is huge. They're absolutely allergic to the whole idea of it a lot of the time, because they've got the security and the risk goggles on. The benefit to having someone who's turned the corner and go back in and tell their story. It's been an ongoing battle for practitioners. Anyone running a program down here, getting someone back in who has lived experience is easier said than done. In fact, it hardly ever happens at all. It tend to have they're very, very resistant to that. Would you agree with that?
I'd agree with that. I think they don't want to deal with the problem. I think they just like to build a warehouse for people with drug and alcohol issues and mental health issues. They don't seem to want to put the money into researching about it and trying to fix the problem, all the underlying issues of why people actually are in the prison services.
And this is precisely why we have shows like the Doing Time show, so that we can actually act as a watchdog in regards to these programs, these new programs coming in. I mean, often what we hear time and time again, not just from people that have been to prison, but also from lawyers, from advocates, and from, even Aboriginal people and their families and families in general, is that it's all about control, social control. It's not about self-determination.
Yeah.
And when you think about Nick is the perfect success story. You think anyone who's come out of prison and been able to then move on in life and then establish themselves out of that pre-life, isn't that the perfect success story to then come back into the prison and be the inspiration for those that are struggling to do so? Doesn't make sense.
I think it doesn't make sense either, and then I think Keith says to me on occasions that it's just mind-boggling that someone can't come back in and mentor or have motivational talk to the prisoners to say, hey, look, I'm out here and I'm achieving, you can do it yourself if you put your mind to it. Yeah.
Absolutely. It's approximately 4:42, and in case people have just tuned in, this is the Doing Time show at 3CR, 855 AM on the dial. And if you want to stream live, it's www.3cr.org.au, and you're listening to an interview with Nick and Keith from the Red Cross, and also with Claire. Well, it's not really an interview, it's really a panel discussion, and Rob's here too. And the topic is the lived experience of prison and what we can do to initiate programs of peer support and other issues. Now, this show finishes at 5 o'clock, so we should do perhaps a wrap-up. Are there any final comments that people want to make?
Look, I think it's clear here, I think what Keith and Nick are being able to do through the Red Cross with Risdon is groundbreaking, and I think it's just a perfect example really of what we can do more of in Australia, and I'm sure that we will start to break down those barriers and break down those processes bit by bit. Well, not even bit by bit, but we're going to do it one way or another. That's what I brought back from overseas, that others are doing it, so we should be able to as well. And if we keep sharing throughout, like on radio stations like Doing Time, if we can keep sharing what others are doing around the country in this regards, then we can keep motivating and inspiring others to do the same and more or less join forces in saying that, look, this is a movement that has started and it's just going to keep improving and get stronger.
Anybody else?
It's Keith here. I'd like, as a closing thought, I'd encourage people to read Claire Seffing's paper, the Churchill Fellowship report, because it actually will just blow your mind in terms of what people have been able to set up and implement around the world, including, entire prison reintegration services who have a workforce of people, who with convictions, and it's self-sufficient and it's, person-centred and it works. And I'd really encourage people to take a look at that. But
is there a website link? I'll let you finish and then we'll do the website link for that.
Sure. Yeah. The other thing is for people to remember to have that conversation with people at barbecue, at the coffee shop, at the pub or whatever about the fact that most people who are locked up inside are coming out. They haven't disappeared off the face of the earth. 97% of them in Tasmania come out. So what is there? What life is there for them to come back to? What community is there? And does the community support their journey to actually move beyond that and do something different? So, rather than just have it as a sort of occasional issue, I like to think that we can sort of expand the conversation to your friends, your family, and people that you meet. That's all.
Thank you, Keith. No, that's great. And Nick, is there any final things?
I was going to say what Keith just spoke about is that people should have those discussions at times about their fears or their thoughts about people returning into the community from prison, and try to think of actions that we can all take to make the community safer by educating people that are locked up at this point in time and changing their lives. Because if you change the lives of people that are in prison, it's going to fundamentally come back into the community and change the community for the better. Yeah.
That's exactly right.
Absolutely.
Well, look, I want to thank everybody for coming onto the show, and it's always good, isn't it, to have like-minded people speaking about things, isn't it?
Yeah, it's been wonderful. Very exciting.
Yeah.
And we'll have to come back and share further updates. Perhaps every couple of months or so. It'd be nice to meet back here on radio and just have a bit more of a chat about how everybody's going, because we like to keep on this show. We like to keep continuity on the topics, and often what tends to happen, with the governments, we've got to repeat.
Yep.
And keep going.
Absolutely. And that's, that my report is, you'll find it on the Winston Churchill Memorial Trust website under Claire Sepping's profile.
That's lovely. Thank you, Claire. And what about the paper that we talked about? Can we get access to that?
That's found there.
That's found there as well, is it?
Yes.
Can you repeat those details, Claire?
Yeah, so it's the Winston Churchill Memorial Trust website, and search for Claire Sepping's profile.
Lovely.
And my report is there.
Fantastic. All right. Well, thanks so much, guys. Nick and Keith, and keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Really enjoyed talking. Thanks.
That'll be lovely. Thanks a lot. Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
And that was a discussion. With Nick, Keith, Claire, Rob. And you're back with the Doing Time show, and it's approximately 4:51, and we're just going to wrap up the show now with Claire here as well as one of our special guests. And Claire, what did you think of that discussion?
Oh, look, I think it was brilliant. I mean, it's exciting for me, especially to have been able to have, Keith and Nick from Red Cross in Tasmania on the phone. I mean, it's just really bringing us all together and sharing that information, but about keeping that whole concept of that it's those that have gone through the prison system are the experts, and that by using their expertise we're actually breaking down that whole stigma, and we're actually literally organically breaking down that belief that we feel that the community is sort of the us and them, and that the community doesn't understand what it would be like for people coming out of prison. We're humanising it, and we're showing what value they've got too. So the likes of someone like Nick, who's been through the system, wants to be able to then work in a professional role where he's actually going to help people that have been through the system like him. I mean, I think that's just a brilliant example of that. And the more that we can keep sharing this information, spreading the word around the country, that's only going to benefit by breaking down the whole stigma.
Yeah, well, that's exactly right. And I'm hoping, that we can have more success stories.
Absolutely.
Because often what tends to happen, we don't have enough of those stories, and often what tends to happen is we have here on this show, people that are killed. There's deaths in custody. There's refugees and asylum seekers in detention. There are people that are reoffending again and again and again, and being traumatised in prison. There's just so much injustice. And, I'm really hoping that we can start getting new programs in Australia.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of the stigma is that, they've done something dangerous. In most cases, they haven't. But even the ones that are done something dangerous doesn't mean the person is really dangerous themselves. And we think, we got to lock them up, keep them out of the way of society, and protect ourselves. We got to put them somewhere far away and isolated. But in fact, that if we can house them somewhere where they can have access to the resources that they need, then they can change, and they can come back into society for good and do something good for society.
Yeah, no, it's important. It's all about helping each other, because often what tends to happen, prison is a reflection of society, isn't it? Mm. It's a reflection of what goes on out here.
Yeah, sometimes a lot of us goes on the wrong path, and we need a bit of a timeout, and then get directed back onto the right path.
Or it could be also, miscarriages of justice that happen as well. But also we won't have time to talk about that now, because it's approximately 4:54. We've got about 3 minutes before we finish. I'm just going to go into another announcement, and then we'll say goodbye.
Keep Radical Radio on the air. Pledge your support for a 3CR program during Radiothon. To make your pledge, call us on 9419 8377 or visit us at the station, 21 Smith Street in Collingwood, and pay by cash, cheque or FPOS. You can also visit the website 3cr.org.au, or if you prefer post, send your cheque or money order to PO Box 1277, Collingwood 3066. And be sure to tell us which program you would like your donation to go to. Support radical programs with passion. Melbourne 3CR.
And you're back with the Doing Time show, and I'm sure listeners who have listened to the whole show will have noticed that I did play that announcement twice, and it was a deliberate thing that I've done, just to highlight the fact that we did have Radiothon, and that it is important. I'm hoping, if you haven't already, please pay your pledges, and for the ones that have paid to the shows at 3CR, thank you very, very much indeed. And for people that haven't paid, there was just some details there about how to pay to keep 3CR on air. And as you know, the Doing Time show did meet its target, and we wanted to thank you for that once again. It's approximately 4:56, and we've got about a minute left. Thank you to all our guests for coming, for either being on the phone or coming in. We're going to be going out now with our theme song, Black Fella, White Fella, by the Rumpy Band. And we'll see you next week, every Monday, 4 to 5, for the Doing Time show. We've got Beyond Zero up next. So it's goodbye from all of us. Goodbye from Marissa.
Goodbye from Claire.